Yes, I think there's a problem there. Okay, there's a problem there with the header. So here we are for as it turns out, the first night of tracker updates for leg 2 and also the closing stages of leg 1 for Godspeed. And we'll get into that in a minute. So lots of things going on. Yesterday we were supposed to come up at 9 and it was delayed until 9:30, and then we went to set up. It wasn't quite syncing the way it was supposed to, so we didn't show up. But anyway, it wasn't long since the start, and I think everyone could see pretty clearly that it was straightforward weather. Not a huge story, but it's interesting to watch the difference in performance now that there's a reasonably consistent breeze heading in the right direction. So it's a bit of a drag race to get south. And hang on a sec. Now the header's decided to start doing its thing. I'm going to turn it off. That should fix that. So I'm assuming it's here. G'day, Catherine. You're first up tonight. And so what's going on? Settling down after the start. We've moved out of the office. Clipper Race coming in behind us. Their boats aren't here yet. They'll probably turn up on Thursday, I think. Watching Sterner. Sterner took off this afternoon about 4 o'clock, I think it was. We were hanging around for a while, waiting for them to finally get going, but they sorted out their mast issues and very happy to finally get underway. And we saw them. They've got a bit of a beat out at the moment. It's the wind head of the beam, but the sea state's pretty mild. There's a groundswell there, a couple of metres, but not too bad for them. But they've certainly looked like they may have missed a whole weather system, and that'll make it challenging for them to catch up, to jump from one system to another. But we'll talk about that as we go forward. People bailing out. Rob left yesterday back to England. Ada's flying out tonight. She's down at the airport already, I think. Getting ready for the midnight flight, and I fly out tomorrow. So if all goes well, your tracker tomorrow night will be Lutz. If you're watching Lutz, I'll send you an email later. So I'll be off the air for a day or so. And we took one SoundCloud call today from Tapio, which was kind of fun. It's on the phone, and I haven't hooked up with Georgie and Jack to get that off and up, but it will go up tomorrow. And then for tomorrow, there'll be another 3 boats calling in for SoundCloud, and we get into the usual routine. And so Jack or Georgie will take those SoundCloud. No, I'll probably end up doing it tomorrow. A few things going on here. Godspeed's about to arrive, and I'll tell you about that sometime after 12. So if that lobs on the SoundCloud, it's a bit challenging. Then I fly out tomorrow night. I think I said that. Georgie and Jack are staying until end of the week. Until Explorer gets going, and then they'll head over to New Zealand. So anyway, we'll see how it goes. So right now, let's see what we can see on the tracker. I thought before I go into Godspeed, I thought I'd just show you how dramatic some of the issues are here with the current. This is the Agulhas current. You can see where it is. There's South Africa here, and they're coming down. They will have plotted the exact position of these currents. They're like rivers in the ocean, and they extend right up to the surface. And you can see already this is the smart place to be, targeting this little corner here, so that you get a bit of a kick. As soon as I came on looking at Penduic, I thought, crikey, she's doing 12.5 knots. That's the fastest I've seen her doing for an average speed over 4 hours for some time. And then it's the current that's probably running it up to 2 to 3 knots there. They're all getting a bit of a kick from that. Maiden's not in it yet, so she's only doing 9.6. But Translator's doing better than that, so they'll hook on. And it looks like Maiden might have missed it. They'll go down the edge and cross over here. But Penduic's picked it pretty right. They'll come cruising across here and probably pick up, sort of 15 miles or so. A bit hard to say, but it doesn't take long. Anyway, we'll go from here. I'm going to go basic live tracker again and get to the first leg so we can look at where Godspeed is. Some people have got on their apps on their phone are wondering what's going on because they can't quite see the correct results. So just a reminder, if you're running your app on your mobile, you need to actually get out of Yellowbrick, come back in and make sure you click leg 2 if you're following the boats in leg 2. Otherwise, you won't be getting the right statistics. That's the bottom line. So at the moment, I'll put the weather in so you can see what's going on for Godspeed. You can see that Sterner's in the picture here, but she may not be giving the correct results. So there's Sterner took off this afternoon, and Godspeed right now in this gentle breeze, they're doing 6.1 knots, and they've got 69 miles to go. So that's at 7, 8, 9 o'clock tonight. It's right now. And that would suggest, that's probably 6, that's 12 hours, but that's assuming the weather stays the same. So that it would mean 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's pretty straightforward calculations. But the issue is, if we look at what's actually happening to the weather, you can just depict, it's certainly not going to get any stronger. So that means the best they can do is about 9 o'clock. And if we just toggle this forward, say 10 hours, there's 3, 4, 5. You can see straight away it's softening there a bit. You may not be able to take the colour, but 9, 10. So it's certainly softening a bit. And just before then, it's quiet inshore. So I would think that rather than 10 o'clock, it's probably going to be somewhere more like around midday. And we'll just watch it as they get closer, but certainly not before 9 o'clock. And we'll just watch this space. Not a lot to talk about after that. They know exactly where they're going. They're really lucky. If we look at the big picture, there's no strong southeasterlies. In fact, it's being driven by they're at the bottom, the southeastern corner of this high. So it's pretty cool. They're just riding it in. There's calms behind them. They're catching up, but I don't think they will. They'll hold that breeze all the way through. So that works out perfect for me. So I can fly out and we can get the last boat in. Arriving on the 8th, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're only 3 days behind the start date. That means they've got to stay for at least 4 days, but I'd say they'll probably stay for 5 days. So it's going to put them, a bit over a week behind the other boats. But will it have an effect on the weather? Yes, it will. Could work in their favour or against it. So a lot of factors come into play there. Just while we're talking that, a bit of an update on Explorer. Everything's sort of happening. There's quite a few things to do, with electrical, and we're just redoing the batten cars and retuning the rig, checking some hydraulics and tidying up down below, sort out the fridge and service the engine and the generator. But generally it's looking okay. So the plan is, and I got to say that they're all working hard, but they're not working hard either in the sense that they're managing to get a few hours off every day, which is a good thing, because I'd say they're pretty confidently, touch wood, they should be underway by Sunday. They could probably even squeak Saturday if they tried, but it works better for Sunday because we've got 2 new crew coming in. We had 2 dropout crew. So we've got one English lady from Cape Town and another one flying in from France, a young girl that's dead keen, good sailor, dead keen to do it. So she's on a plane and she'll arrive Friday night. So that's about all I probably need to tell you on that one. So we're going to go back out again and get onto the live tracker again and go for, when it pops up, we want to go leg 2, and that'll give us the statistics that we actually want to see. So here we go. I drop the weather in and boom, and we drop the grids in so you can see latitudes and so on. So let's first of all just look at the big picture of the Southern Ocean, and it's going to be completely different in this leg than what you will have seen in the past. So there's a lot more weather activity, and it's quite interesting to see what goes on. So the first mark of the course to remember is the Crozets over here, a group of islands, and then Kerguelen Island there. They've got to leave them to port. They can, if they want, dip down here, but they've got to come up to get around, and then they're slowly working their way across to the bottom of Australia. There's another waypoint here. So the suggested route is straight across like this, but you can pretty much rest assured the sailors are going to come down, go close here, and possibly, even dip down and come up again for this. This is the 40th degree of 40th parallel of latitude. That's 40 degrees south of the equator. And this is 50 degrees south. So it's the roaring 40s all across here. And then the furious 50s, when you get around 50, it gets a bit more intense. And you can also already see a lot of color there. We haven't seen this stuff regularly through the Atlantic, but where you've got the blues, you're going to be getting winds that are forecast sort of 40 knots, gusting 60 knots. And the direction generally is pretty consistent of a series of fronts coming through, one after the other. These low pressure systems here, these low pressures, are actually generated along the coast of Antarctica. This is Antarctica. They start off as very intense low pressures, and then they actually move out in a northeasterly direction and start head up into the Southern Ocean. So that's where they come from. And what that does, usually they run along in between 50 and 40. maybe the center of them maybe a little bit higher, so they're up here, and that creates the westerlies. So you can see pretty clearly along this area here, anything below 40 is kind of good. There's a northerly, but here it's northwesterly, here it's southwesterly. It's all generally favorable wind directions to keep going out to the east. And that's where we're going to see a lot of difference in the reality of the average speeds of the boat and how the performance of boats relatively to each other will be potentially completely different than what you saw in the Atlantic. It's a different situation. You need power here. If you've got power and waterline length, it's a big advantage. So Penduic could be in a good situation. I think more so than Translated 9 and Helsinki again, long waterline, powerful boat. That's going to give them an advantage as well. And then the others, let's just see how it plays out. So one final thing on the weather, you can see here, this is a front coming through here, and I'll just pick it up a little bit so you can see what goes on. So that's the center of the low pressure system here, and that's that's the high pressure system here. Okay, so that's a high here, and then down here it's a low pressure system going counterclockwise. Okay, so the high coming off the back of the high, it's colliding with the low, or the low is going to collide with the high. And of course, the rotations don't mix, so they've got to have a collision and change. So it's very consistently coming from the north or northwest. When that's happening, it's cloudy and overcast and rain and things like that in the northwesterly. And then it'll go bang, all of a sudden this front will come across and it's beautiful blue sky. It's a southwesterly or a westerly wind that comes in. Situation changes and it settles in to build as you go along. And there's a lot more things to that. When it comes here, before you get this bang from the northwest, if it's blowing sort of 35 knots from the northwest, you can be sure when it hits with a bang, it'll blow at least 40 knots from the south or the southwest when it comes through, and then it'll settle down because there's not much wind behind it. It'll drop down, and then it'll continue to slowly build as this westerly wind comes across. That's probably enough to tell you for now. It's a bit of not necessarily a weather session, but you'll see how all this comes into play as you go along. So what's been happening? There was a mixed bag start. One group parked out to the west, didn't go so far, but the lead group managed to get down pretty quick and on their way. First thing of interest is that this position for Neptune is actually from 4 o'clock. Okay, that's 6 o'clock. Why is it doing that? Let's just see here. 4 o'clock. Okay, so they're all there. Okay, so I thought they'd actually rolled over from there. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, in another hour, you may see Neptune start to alter course and head towards Port Elizabeth, which is over here. Okay, and the reason for that is they called us this afternoon. You've probably seen the post that they think there might be something going on with their rudder shaft and tiller situation. They're not sure. They've had a good look as best they can, and they just still can't determine whether there's something strange going on or not. The steering at the moment is perfectly good. They're not asking for any assistance. They just think that it's prudent to actually give it a good solid check over before they carry on with the next 6,500 miles through the Indian Ocean, which is quite demanding. So they called us and asked for approval. I said, well, yeah, you can go up there, but the issue will be whether they get outside assistance or not. So what I think they're probably looking at is going up here, anchoring behind the island, Port Elizabeth, not necessarily to go in and slip the boat and drop the rudder and things like that. I think it's just to get some shelter so that they can actually then have a good look. They could possibly even, I don't know, the design, maybe drop the rudder while it's in the water, have a look, just double check everything, and if it looks right, go. A lot of that speculation, because all they said, they think they may have a problem, and they had fully intended, after checking it, trying to check the basics for half an hour, that they thought they're going to have to go to Port Elizabeth. The 10 o'clock position will answer that, and we're not concerned about them at all. It's just a change in navigation, so that's their intention. But at the 4 o'clock, they were doing 6.8 knots, quite happy, 189 nautical mile in the day. That's kind of good, and trailing the fleet a little bit. Triana, once again, here we go, pushing the boat hard. It's the only way I can describe it. They sail hard and they go fast. But how long can it last? Hopefully all the way around the world. Sailors on board having a ball, and if we look at their IRC ranking. They're 5th online on us overall, and they're 3rd in IRC overall, and 1st in adventure class. So again, performing really well. 8 knots, 197 nautical mile a day. That's pretty good. So you can't complain about that. The speed of keep, 9.4 knots. Remembering they're sitting in the current now, so some of this is inflated by the current. 209 nautical miles in the day, so that's pretty impressive as well. We go down to Maiden. Maiden was lagging back, but she's not getting a push of the current. 9.6, still good speeds. They've got everything up, I'd say. Most of the boats, they've kites up and so on, probably. And those wind speeds are sort of 25 knots, gusting 30 maybe with a sort of sou'wester. Not a trade wind, but it's a Southern Ocean breeze. 224 nautical mile a day, so pretty cool. Translated 9, 10.1 knots, 213 mile a day. Penduic, Wacko, 12.5 knots, 240 nautical mile a day. That's pretty impressive. And they're sitting in that current that we discussed before. Same too for Spirit of Helsinki, 10.4 knots though. The others are sailing faster and harder, 233 miles in the day. And they're in the rankings. They're coming, they're coming 2nd in line on us and 5th in IRC. We did check out translated. Okay, they're 1st in IRC and 1st in flyer class. That's on the IRC. That's on IRC, I think. 1st in flyer class IRC. So Outlaw, at one stage, 12 hours ago, I think it was 12, 18 hours ago, they were way up where they shouldn't have been because they were going really super duper fast, keeping up with everything, but they seem to have dropped back a bit now. 8.4 knots, 161 mile a day. Galliana was secure, doing pretty well, 8.8, 200 nautical mile a day. And White Shadow and Avrika side by side. So 6.1 knots for White Shadow, 161 mile a day, and Avrika 6.6 knots and 176 mile a day. So they're all having a bit of fun. And if we look at, I'll pick this up and I'll show you what's going on with Sterner. We'll probably get some pictures up eventually of them leaving the dock. 2.3 knots, so they've slowed down. They were going well to weather, but I think they're in a wind shadow there. For sure, I know they are because there's a bit of breeze. 10 nautical miles in the last 24 hours. That's because they only left at 4:30. So they haven't gone as far as they probably thought they would, but watch this space. It's all happening. So just to, I think that's all we probably need to go through, but just again, just for fun, I'll show you the big picture on the Agulhas current, and then we'll, I'll just come back to currents. Boom. Here we go. Boom, boom. Okay, drop this down. You'll see how all this works, how it all comes together. So this is an interesting current stream. It's all going in the direction they want to go. I would say many of them will have plotted this positions really well, because if you're going to sail alongside it, you might as well be sailing in it to see where it's going. Big ships have come to grief here because wind against tide creates vertical waves. And so you can see these big current lines here. If it's coming down to the southwest and you've got a southwesterly breeze coming up the other way, you get horrific waves because it's wind against tide or wind against current. And they can just do you a huge injustice on that. But for now, the weather's pretty benign, so it's not too bad. But I'll just pick that up and then we'll look at some of I'll leave the rest of the weather for next time. Anyway, I think that's it. I'm just going to come on and look for any comments here, see if there's any. And I think Lutz will be the one that's going to be doing tomorrow. Okay, a couple of questions. Catherine, hello. Face red heart shape. Not sure what that is. Hello from North Carolina. Where are you headed next time? Back to France. Yeah, back to Les Sables d'Olonne. We live there now. Jane's just arrived back in Les Sables d'Olonne today from China. So haven't seen her for a while. That'll be fun. She says it's cold. She's cold. I got on Facebook and she got home, had a shower, boom, straight under the doona. Anyway, great to back to the routine. Absolutely, it's going to be constant now, and believe me, it'll be completely different than the Atlantic leg, obviously. So stand by. Been jonesing for an update. Yes. So hi, Curly. Few days rest. Yeah. We still haven't got much rest yet, but it's not as intense with all the boats gone. The marina was very bare, so we managed to take it a little bit easier. I think Crozet and Cooley must be left to port or to starboard. Oh, I said to port, sorry. Yes, they've got to be left to starboard when they go past. John, what's the status of Marie Starlink? It's now not on. She has no dispensation for Starlink at the moment for leg 2. So if she uses Starlink, she will be penalised. Interestingly, about 7 boats are being penalised. They will all receive fines for the start, which we'll talk about later on. They didn't do one of the very important things they were supposed to do, and the rules need to be followed, especially when they were pointed out only a few days before the start. So it was just amazing. Rules are there for a purpose. I have to say, I'm really loving Brian's little updates. Yep, he's cool. And thanks for the update. Okay, that's really about it. And we'll look forward to, Lutz will look forward to, hopefully seeing you tomorrow. And I'll probably come up the night after or get back into it or whatever. So we'll see you later. I think that's all. So watch out for Godspeed around about midday, I reckon. But I'll update on Facebook anyway. Okay, that's it. Boom, boom. See you later.